Weirding Way Media.
80s TV ladies, so sexy and so pretty. 80s TV ladies, stepping out into the city. 80s TV ladies, often treated kind of working hard for the money in a man's world. 80s TV ladies.
Welcome to 80s TV Ladies, where we thank you for being a friend. And dear listeners, here are your hosts, Susan+lambert+hatem and Sharon+Johnson.
Hello, I'm Susan.
And I'm Sharon. In order to kick off this wonderful upcoming series of episodes looking at the incredible 80s TV ladies show, The Golden Girls, we want to give you a little overview.
A little primer, if you will.
There's so much to say about Golden Girls, and we have so many great guests coming on. So why don't we start with a few fun facts, if you will?
How many fun facts do you think we need, Sharon?
Well, I mean, I don't know. What do you think?
Oh, I was thinking like 50.
50. That's a lot, but this show is a lot, so that works for me.
You think we can do it?
I think
we can
so.
do it because it also makes for a nice alliteration. 50 fun facts about the Foldenfurls. I mean, the Golden Girls, obviously, but that's a lot, and we can do it.
Absolutely. Let's do it.
Let's do it. Okay. We're going to do the top 10 show facts, just like general show facts. All right. Sharon, you start.
Well, The Golden Girls was created by Susan Harris, a mentee of Norman Lear, who started writing scripts for All in the Family, The Partridge Family, and Maude.
She would go on to create 13 TV shows between 1975 and 1998, including Soap, Empty Nest, Nurses, It Takes Two, and of course, The Golden Girls.
The Golden Girls ran on NBC from September 14th, 1985, which was almost exactly, what is that?
40 years ago.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, I couldn't do the math there for a second.
I know.
To May 9th, 1982. 180 half-hour episodes.
Made 4 decades ago. All right. Fact 4, it starred Bea Arthur, Betty+white, Rue McClanahan, and Estelle Getty as 4 older, and by older, we mean 3 of them were in their gasp 50s, who were living together in sin. Okay, that's not really true. That's not a fact. In Miami, Florida, because they were widowed and divorced and needed to save money.
Bea Arthur played Dorothy Zbornak, the sarcastic, sharp-witted divorcee and substitute teacher.
Betty+white played the naive widow Rose Nylund, who told stories of her hometown of St. Olaf, Minnesota.
Rue McClanahan played Blanche Devereaux, the provocative Southern belle.
And Estelle Getty played Sophia Petrillo, also a widower. Ugh. She was also a widower.
Also a widow.
A widow. Not a widower?
Correct.
Yeah,
Men are widowers.
Yeah.
Men are widowers.
Yeah.
And women are black widows.
Yeah.
Interesting. Okay. That's interesting. Widow and widower. Oh, I've learned something. Also a widow and Dorothy's mom. Originally, she's from Italy and then Brooklyn, New York, and ended up in Miami.
Fun fact number 5. The production companies were Whit Thomas Harris Productions and Touchstone Television, a spin-off brand from the Walt Disney Network Television, and The Golden Girls was the first TV show under that brand.
That was something I learned.
I actually knew that, having worked at ABC, but, you know.
Well, because you know things. Fun fact number 6, Whit Thomas Harris was the movie and TV production company of Paul Younger-Whit, Tony Thomas, and Susan Harris. They also produced shows that did not involve Susan Harris, and then it would be called Whit Thomas Productions. Those shows included It's a Living, The Practice, Beauty and the Beast, Blossom, and even The Office.
And as a side note, they also produced one of our Susan, not Susan Harris, Susan's favorite TV movies, Brian's Song, from 1971.
That was like kind of the first TV movie that broke my heart.
Oh, it broke everyone's heart. It's for those that it starred Billy D. Williams and from The Godfather. Heaven help me, what's his name? I can
James
see his.
Caan.
Thank you.
Caan. As Brian Piccolo, Billy D. Williams, Gale Sayers. Great book. Great TV movie. That one broke my heart.
Oh, it was a beauty.
It was fantastic. 1971. Go look it up, kids. All right. Fun fact number 7. Witt and Thomas met each other in 1973 when Paul Younger Witt went to work for Danny Thomas Productions. And turns out that Tony Thomas was the son of actor and comedian Danny Thomas, who had his own production company.
Number 8. When Tony Thomas and Paul Younger Witt formed their own production company, Susan Harris was their first hire and ultimately a partner.
And then guess what?
What?
Paul Younger Witt and Susan Harris got married later. They fell in love and got married. I love a love story. Is it me?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, fact number 9. The idea for the Golden Girls came to Brandon Tartikoff from a TV special promotional preview show, which they did back in the 80s. They were always so fun because they were all-star. This was called the 1984 NBC All-Star Hour, and they were used to introduce the new shows and the new cast. And Selma Diamond from Night Court and Doris Roberts from Remington Steele were introducing the stars of a new show that Selma thought was called Miami Nice. And she's like, oh, it's about cha-cha lessons and mink coats and sitting on the beach. And then Doris Roberts has to tell her, no, it's not Miami Nice. It's Miami Vice. And then she introduced the world to Don Johnson and Philip Michael Thomas. I thought that was great. We have a link for that little YouTube clip in there. But it sort of stuck in your head, as you do when you're like a head of a TV network and you're coming up with things you want. That it might be a funny idea for a show.
Yeah, you never know where a good idea is going to come from. And to their credit, NBC followed up on it. And the rest, as they say, is history. Fun fact number 10. Everybody Wins. The Golden Girls is one of only 4 sitcoms in history where all 4 of the main cast members won an Emmy Award. The others were All in the Family, Carol O'Connor, Gene Stapleton, Rob Reiner, and Sally Struthers all won Emmys. Will and Grace, Eric McCormick, Deborah Messing, Sean Hayes, and Megan Mullally all won Emmys. And Schitt's Creek, Eugene Levy, Catherine O'Hara, Dan Levy, and Annie Murphy all won Emmys.
I am so glad you took all those names from me, Sharon. That's like taking a bullet for me. I really appreciate that. Because my words don't always work. But I didn't know that either. That was a good fun fact to discover in research.
Same. I had no idea that it was only just these shows where something like that had happened.
Well, and yet it also felt like a lot of shows.
Yeah, actually, yeah, it does. But yeah, it's so very interesting. So,
all right. So that's our general. Now we got 10 cast and character facts, I'm calling them. Now we got to do 11 to 20.
There you go.
Go.
Bea Arthur was reluctant. Bea Arthur hesitated about taking the role of Dorothy. Her co-star, Rue McClanahan, convinced her by saying, and I quote, "Why are you going to turn down the best script that's ever going to come across your desk as long as you live?" That's what friends are for, people.
That's what friends are for. And everybody talks about how great that pilot script was by Susan Harris. And, you know, she had already starred in Maude. I mean, she didn't have to do this show. So in some ways, there was a lot of like, you know, if you do another show after you've done a show like Maude, there's a chance it won't work.
Right.
And so then you sort of like, well, why would I just get a little egg on my face? But thank God she was willing to take that. Also, there was a role reversal. Betty+white was originally cast as the lusty Southern belle Blanche, and Rue McClanahan was cast as the naive Rose. They switched roles, and I've heard both that they decided to do that and also that Jay Sandrich was part of that conversation. So because they were sort of, that was sort of typecast of their previous roles where White played the man-hungry Sue Ann Nivens on Mary Tyler Moore, and McClanahan had played Maude's best friend, Vivian Harmon, who was naive. So I think that ended up being a pretty spectacular switch.
And it's one of those little, the seemingly small things that happens with casting and shows that makes, you know, that ultimately makes the show work and makes it into something like a lasting hit like The Golden Girls. It's not clear. We'll never know, but it's not clear that if they had stayed in the original roles as they were cast, whether or not the show would have worked. Who knows?
It's all that chemistry and the mix of those chemicals. I was trying not to say chemicals and people. All right, whatever. It's fine. It's fine. And then, the ages were a little bit funny. We like to think that age is just a number, but it turns out that Estelle Getty, who played the oldest character, she played Sophia, who was supposed to be 80. She was a year younger in real life than Bea Arthur, who played her daughter. And the oldest actress for the show was Betty+white. I thought that always surprises me.
Same, especially the Estelle Getty. When I learned that, so that was really a surprise.
Well, that does bring us to fun fact number 4 of the second round of 10. It took makeup artists almost 3 hours to transform Estelle Getty into the elderly Sophia. And between season 1 and 2, Getty went and had a facelift because in her real life, she wanted to be like, hey, I'm cool. I can do other things too. And so it became even harder because she looked younger when she came back to the show.
Clearly, though, she didn't care about how much time she had to spend in the makeup chair. Our next fun fact is that Betty+white and Rue McClanahan were close friends in real life, having worked together on Mama's Family previously. They would often pass the time on the set playing word games.
Which is so cute.
I know. I love that.
I love that. And it does feel like they were professional friends. I do think that because I don't think you can carry a show that long in a sitcom format. Like in, an hour drama, you can be like, I'm not going to be here for this. If the leads are fighting, the production can force themselves to work around it if they have to. But I think that's much harder in a sitcom. But it did turn out that Bea Arthur and Betty+white, famously had a more strained relationship. They weren't quite the same kind of friends. They had very different working styles. And White has been quoted as saying that Bea Arthur was not that fond of me, unquote.
Shows the level of their talent and professionalism that you really couldn't tell in watching, and you still can't tell in watching the show.
No, you can't.
Good on both of them. Our next fun fact, number 7 in this group, Rue McClanahan loved Blanche's extravagant wardrobe so much that she had a clause in her contract that allowed her to keep all of her characters' custom-made clothing. Good for her.
I know.
I'd imagine most people don't realize that most of the time, the actors don't get to take the clothes home at the end of the day. It belongs to the production. So good for her.
Yes. Fun fact, number 8 in this group about the cast, despite years of being an award-winning Broadway and off-Broadway actress, Estelle Getty, when she was playing Sophia, suffered extreme stage fright. You can't really tell on the show. I think it's pretty amazing, but she would apparently freeze and panic during recordings. She often relied on cue cards in later seasons. It did come out that Estelle Getty later suffered from dementia, which probably contributed to some of that difficulty. Even though she wasn't that old, that may have been beginning to cause issues for memorization.
It's lovely that the production was able to find ways to work around that for her to allow her to continue in the role and continue performing as spectacularly as she did throughout the series. I didn't know about that either until, we really started looking into this, and I say good on her, good on them. So,
yeah.
So a little bit lighter side, despite the frequent cheesecake eating scenes, Bea Arthur disliked cheesecake in real life.
That would be hard.
Well, maybe she was glad that the dessert that the ladies were sitting around the table eating in these scenes was not something she was fond of. So she didn't have to worry about sitting there and eating lots of cheesecake because she really loved it for however long it took for them to make their way through those scenes, or just having it around too much. I know for me, having it nearby, something I really love. Oh my goodness.
Yeah, you wouldn't stop. You'd be like, bring on some more cheesecake.
Exactly.
Yeah. And so I was, as I'm re-looking at this show and I'm sort of in season 1 right now. I was watching the evolution of the little kitchen table.
Mm-hmm.
And for the most part, there's almost always only 3 chairs around the little table, even though 4 women lived in the house. Every once in a while, there'll be a 4th. I think earlier on, they tried to get all 4, but it's both for camera because it's just easier to shoot. And then Bea Arthur almost always sits in the center chair. And that's, I think, for sort of the symmetry of she's so very tall and the others aren't as tall, but also it's so you can really see all of her expressions when she's basically making some takes to camera sometimes. But it's good. It's part of the comedy.
All right. So now we're off to 10 production facts.
We've done 20. That's 20
That's
facts.
right. So these will be facts 21 to 30 as we go through these. So let's start with the pilot. The pilot was called The Engagement. And in it, the Sophia monologue that started with her saying, "Picture it," was a late addition to the pilot script, added after the writers realized the character was a hit with the audience. They reshot and re-edited the pilot a lot to cut out Coco, the gay housekeeper / cook, and bring Sophia forward.
Well, and I remember those picture it monologues.
Oh, yeah.
Picture it. Sicily. Those became a real staple of the show. They really became one of her signature bits. And speaking of Coco, the gay cook who acted sort of as their housekeeper, the character was dropped from the pilot, really, as much as they could, and then from the series, because Estelle Getty, Sophia popped so much that they were like, oh no, she's moving in with them. She's going to be the 4th. And she was intended to be a recurring character. The Coco was played by the actor Charles Levin, who played a lot of 80s and 90s and onward.
Yeah, and it's not something that's unusual that happened then and today, where something happened during the pilot that went better or worse than they expected, and they made some adjustments and some changes, and it's just a normal part of the process.
In the John Cryer episode, they talked about the pilot for 2.5 Men and how it was Blythe Danner.
Yes,
and then they were like, it doesn't work.
Right.
She's not mean enough. So they got Holland Taylor, who plays an excellent mean.
Yes,
and is not mean either in real life.
That's why she's such a great actress.
I know, she's amazing. Oh, is it me?
Yes.
Okay. Number 3 of this series. The iconic house used for the show exterior shots is not in Miami, Florida. It's a real house located in Brentwood, which is a neighborhood of Los Angeles. And then later they rebuilt the house facade in what was then at the time the Disney World MGM Studios and became Hollywood Studios in Florida.
I wonder if, I don't know if they ever used that for production. I would imagine not, because it was in Florida.
Oh, you think they just built that facade for people to go, oh, look, it's the Golden Girls?
Probably, because they really didn't shoot anything for the show outside. It was all shot on a stage.
Well, but they may have shot it for the exterior, just that
Yes.
little exterior shot.
Yes. Where they show you the house.
Yeah. No, you always almost always see them just coming in the front door. They're always on set.
Right. Or through the kitchen door, through the lanai or something.
Yeah. And the lanai moves around.
Well, nobody's supposed to notice that.
I noticed that. All right, your turn.
Number 4 in this section, where we're talking about production facts, is that there's no real St. Olaf. Rose's hometown of St. Olaf, Minnesota, is entirely fictional.
But I love all those stories. And speaking of stories, we got a great story from when we interviewed Stan Zimmerman back a season ago. And we're going to have him coming back and to talk about the origin of St. Olaf, because he was there.
Yes, he was there for the first season. So he has lots and lots of great stuff to share. So Look forward to that.
So during the run of the show, both Betty White and Bea Arthur lost their mothers in that first season, actually, but continued with filming. It didn't really interrupt filming, which is weird because you would probably interrupt filming now. That was just sort of the time. You couldn't have anything interrupt your work, even personal tragedy.
You don't think even now that they would?
I think now they would.
Really? Okay. Because I don't know. I guess I'm just thinking about me in some ways. Obviously, everybody's different. Having something to focus on would be helpful for me dealing with the grief. But everybody's different, and I mean, they're doing a comedy,
right? Well, I think it's both. I think that certainly the schedules get moved around when someone dies during production. But I think sometimes there's in the industry, particularly those that come for theater, there's so much of a show must go on kind of mentality, which has, I think, rightfully lessened a little bit. And people understand, like, hey, if you're sick, don't come in. Hey, if you're having an emotional time, take care of yourself first and then do the work, because we all need to have that time.
Yeah, I'd like to think it's an option that people have, so that if somebody's like, no, I'm good. I don't want to. It's okay. I don't want to hold up production, and they want to go forward. You go forward. But if somebody says, yeah, I need a little bit of time, and that's also okay.
Yeah,
I'd like to think that there's some more humanity in that way, which there isn't enough of even to this day, even though there's a little bit more.
True that. All right, next.
So the next fun fact in this section, there were over 100 cheesecakes consumed by the cast during the show's 7-year run. Many of them were sent to the set by bakeries around the country. And I'd like to think that everyone, except for maybe Bea Arthur, enjoyed them
immensely.
Yes.
Now, here's the interesting thing. There were 180 episodes, so they did not consume cheesecake in every episode.
This is true. This is very true. I don't know about you, but many of the cheesecake scenes were some of my all-time favorites.
They were, because they were usually the late night conversations, right? The like, hey,
that's usually when we get the St. Olaf stories from.
That is true. That is true. The St. Olaf cheesecake stories. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about the theme song for our 7th fact in our production facts. Thank You for Being a Friend was actually an existing song before it became the theme song for The Golden Girls. It was written and recorded in 1978 by Andrew Gold, and then the version that was used for the show was performed by Cynthia Fee, and someone who's from Golden Girls will come on and tell you about that later. Woohoo!
Look forward to that. Up next in production facts, the kitchen set on The Golden Girls was originally used on an earlier Whit Thomas Harris series called It Takes Two, which aired on ABC from 1982 to 1983.
And created by Susan Harris.
Exactly.
Another Susan Harris show.
Yeah.
I just love the idea that they just sort of stored that set, or maybe it was still up or something. And it's just like, oh, we'll do this. It's fine.
Yeah. Depending on the timing, maybe they realized that they had this set sitting there when they were making the pilot and they thought, what the heck? Let's use this. Who knows? But that kind of tickles me.
Yeah. Okay. So the Golden Girls, they were a pioneer in covering controversial and serious issues, including homelessness, menopause, sexual harassment, and especially LGBTQ representation, featuring episodes with gay and lesbian characters and talking about AIDS.
Absolutely. There certainly were a lot more television shows tackling these kinds of issues, but the Golden Girls, being as popular as it was, certainly didn't have to. The fact that they chose to and put those stories out there, I think I have to give them some credit for that.
Agreed.
So the last production fun fact for Golden Girls is about the renowned director Jay Sandrich. He was known for The Mary Tyler Moore Show, The Cosby Show, and Soap, and he only directed 2 episodes of Golden Girls, the pilot and the backdoor pilot for Empty Nests. He also directed the pilot of A Different World.
Which we talked about.
Yes. So needless to say, he was definitely a talented and seasoned 80s comedy series director.
Legendary.
And yes,
Legendary.
absolutely.
All right. Our next group is talking about the legacy of Golden Girls. These are facts 31 through 40. Golden Girls is beloved by critics and writers. The Writers Guild of America placed it at number 69 on its recent list of the 101 best written TV series of all times. Variety put it on as number 18 in their top 100 television shows of all time. That was like 2019 or something. So it still is beloved.
Oh, absolutely. And it's just as popular, if not more popular today than it was back then. It continues to live on in syndication and now streaming as a whole new audience is finding it.
It's crazy.
Yeah, absolutely. Next up, a spinoff. The show had a short-lived spinoff called The Golden Palace, which aired after the original series finale. It followed Rose, Blanche, and Sophia as they bought and managed a hotel.
It's not as loved as the original.
No, and it certainly didn't last as long. But I was very glad they tried to continue on because it was lovely for at least a little bit longer to spend some time with Rose and Blanche and Sophia.
Yeah.
After the end of the Golden Girls.
And then there was yet another spinoff. The 1988 show Empty Nest, starring Soap's Richard Mulligan, was a show about the next door neighbors of the Golden Girls. And that's kind of a funny way to spin off a show, I think. That show started as a backdoor pilot in the final episode of season 2 of The Golden Girls. They did an episode entitled Empty Nests with an S, which guest starred Rita Moreno and Paul Dooley. It is arguably one of the least favorite episodes of The Golden Girls, and even Rita Moreno says it's not very good. She says the script wasn't right, and Susan Harris was sick, and it never got right.
Oh, yeah, that's such a shame. One wonders what might have happened if Susan Harris had been able to write the script for that pilot. You just never know.
You never know. Again, it's that special chemistry. Everything has to line up.
It's hard not to think that Rita Moreno and Paul Dooley would have made for a great pairing.
I would love that pairing.
Yeah. Now, there were more than 2 spinoffs because...
Yet another spinoff, Sharon.
I know. Well, we've kind of already mentioned it, but it begs mentioning again because Empty Nest, once it did come on the air, retooled, had its own network spinoff, Nurses, which launched in 1991 and ran for 3 seasons. And it starred Lonnie Anderson in the final season.
A fabulous 80s TV lady.
Absolutely.
May she rest in peace.
Yes.
All right. So, yeah, that, again, was news to me. I really didn't until we started looking at this. I think maybe at some point I might have known that Empty Nest was a spinoff of Golden Girls. I had no idea that Nurses was at least a spinoff off of a spinoff of Golden Girls. And so I think that just is kind of cool. This show, Golden Girls, was a global phenomenon. This is fact number 5 in this series. There were 10 international remakes of the Golden Girls for countries like Chile, Israel, Greece, the Philippines, Spain, Russia, Turkey, and others. It sort of is a concept that got retooled and involved a lot of writers. Like Stan, I think, worked on 1 or 2 of those just to help them get started. So I think that's pretty amazing.
Yeah, it really is. It clearly has some themes and characters that are international.
Universal, even.
Yes, that's the word I was
That's the word.
desperately searching
Universal.
for. Because
Throughout the known and unknown universe.
That's right. Because frankly, people of all countries are all aging. And the challenges as you go from one stage of life to another, there's probably a lot of universality to that.
Universality, that's good. That's a hard one.
So the next up in this section is legacy. The show has inspired countless drag shows, including Golden Girls Live, an illegally produced off-Broadway show in 2003, and 2 puppet shows. There was also an animated pilot set in the future, Golden Girls 3033.
How insane. I feel like I have to track that down.
I know.
I had no idea of that one.
I do hope the internet will be our friend in this case and that somewhere it can be found, at least so that we can get a glimpse of it.
And then fact 7 of the legacy, there are also countless books, including a brand new Golden Girls murder mystery series, Murder by Cheesecake, a Golden Girls cozy mystery. There's going to be a series. That's insane. That just came out.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Wow.
Just came out.
Are they trying to take over from where Jessica Fletcher left off?
Kind of. It's kind of a Jessica Fletcher kind of thing, from what I understand. This is Disney basically churning the Golden Girls love into any aspect of the world that they can.
Well, there's a lot of love out there, so I guess. But that's very, very interesting. Next up in this section, as discussed in one of our episodes last season, The Facts of Life was moved to Saturday night to help launch the Golden Girls. And that turned out to be a very successful move. Top ratings hit for NBC. It was a top 10 show for the first 6 seasons. We're talking about Golden Girls here. And the series finale of Golden Girls was watched by 27.2 million viewers. And as of 2016, it was the 17th most watched television finale.
Of all time.
Of all time. That's fantastic.
That's pretty great. It is an award-winning show, which makes a lot of sense. The Golden Girls was nominated for 68 Emmys and won 11 of them.
Well, it would have been nice to see them get a few more, but, that's you can't win them all.
It was a golden time, I would say. There's a lot going on in those, there was Designing Women, there was Cagney and Lacey. There was a lot going on.
Absolutely.
Oh, I guess they wouldn't have been in the same category, Cagney and Lacey.
So the last fun fact in this category, for the 40th anniversary of the Golden Girls, which again is September 18th, 2025. It's 40 years ago that date when the Golden Girls first aired, and Disney is celebrating. We'll have a link in the show notes for all of the things that Disney is planning for the 40th anniversary. But Disney also claims that the Golden Girls has had over 1 billion, that's billion with a B, hours streamed on Hulu and Disney Plus of Golden Girls.
That's a lot of Golden Girls.
Absolutely.
That's a lot of hours. ABC News is supposed to be doing a 1-hour special this fall, although I couldn't find anything. They announced it, but I haven't seen anything. But don't worry, because there's Golden Girls themed wine, pillows, toys, and cheesecake candles coming from Disney.
Just in time for your Christmas shopping.
That's right. Golden Girls everywhere. We're down to the last 10, Sharon. And we're back.
All right. These are 10 character facts.
Yes. About the characters of the Golden Girls.
Yes. So over the course of 7 seasons, there are some discrepancies with time and the characters' histories, but here are some character facts.
And we're saying facts with quotes.
Correct. First up, Rose's children. Rose and her late husband, Charlie, had 5 children, daughters Kirsten, Bridget, and Gunilla, and sons Adam and Charlie Jr.
And I think it's Gunilla.
Works for me.
We're going to say it is till someone corrects us.
There you go.
All right. Blanche and her late husband, George, also had 5 children, daughters Janet and Rebecca, and sons Doug, Biff, and Matthew, also nicknamed Skippy.
Dorothy and her ex-husband, Stan, had 2 children, a daughter, Kate, and a son, Michael.
Okay, now they never really nailed down a lot of ages in this show. In particular, Blanche was very secretive about her age, but a few episodes hinted that she was basically in her 50s for most of the show's run.
I just assumed they all were kind of about the same age.
I assume that too.
Dorothy's ex-husband, Stan, was a recurring character and appeared in 26 episodes of the show. They were married for 38 years before their divorce.
So it was a long relationship. It's interesting that that's an ongoing kind of relationship because they have kids together, because he's getting remarried and there's all sorts of history between them. I thought that was kind of interesting since everyone else was a widow, not a widower. I learned a widow on the show that this was a more complex relationship. They all have sort of that one style relationship with their former husband, the other ladies. Dorothy's was an ongoing, evolving relationship, which is sort of always interesting to me as the child of divorce and someone who's married into a family with stepkids. It's that's more interesting to me in some ways sometimes. And so I find that interesting.
And perhaps that was deliberate on the part of Susan Harris in creating the characters, because both Blanche and Rose had very successful, very loving marriages, whereas because of the nature of the relationship between Dorothy and Stan, especially the fact that they got divorced after having been married so long, there is more tension there. So they were able to use it in a way that they could not with Blanche and Rose's husbands.
Yeah. We're almost there.
That's
We're almost to the
right.
end. Woohoo! Blanche's Southern accent, Rue McClanahan, apparently, like that was not written in the script that she was that Southern and all that stuff. It sort of came out of that. It may have been a Rue McClanahan choice. It may have been a Jay Sandrich Rue McClanahan choice, but it was not originally in the script that she was that Southern. And then, of course, over the course of the show, they really lean into it. So I thought that was interesting.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Then there's the Sicilian curse. Sophia famously put a quote unquote Sicilian curse on her neighbor, Mrs. Claxton, which led to a series of humorous missteps.
That's a goofy Sophia episode in particular, but it's interesting because I know that both Sophia and Dorothy are supposed to be basically Italian American, and in real life, the actresses are Jewish. And they both kind of felt like, why can't we just be Jewish on this show? But they were not. But I will say that one of the things I like about the show, and this is a fact, all their milkshakes brought the boys to the yard because during the course of the show, all of the ladies were sexually active, had romantic partners, and that included Rose and Sophia. Rose had several boyfriends, and the one that I liked the best was Miles Weber, played by Harold Gould.
And for those of you that may not remember, he was Rhoda's father on the
That's
spinoff
right.
Rhoda.
I had forgotten that. That's so funny. Yeah, I liked him. But I thought that was a wonderful, wonderful thing. And they didn't make a big deal about it. It was just a very natural part of their lives that they were, you know, having relationships.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that was great.
Next up, clip-on earrings. Bea Arthur did not have pierced ears, so Dorothy's iconic statement earrings were all clip-ons. I did not know that, but I think it's something that my mother would have appreciated because to this day, she only wears clip-on earrings.
I do not have pierced ears.
Me either.
Yeah. Do you?
Clip-ons, always clip-ons.
Sailor, do you have pierced ears? You do? Oh, yeah. Do you have pierced other things? Oh, you have a couple pierced ears. Okay. A couple pierced earrings. A couple
Piercings.
piercings. Ooh, I got there. Yeah, I did not get my ears pierced in the 80s when it was very cool to do that because my mom said I had to wait till I was 16. And by the time I was 16, I was like, I don't want to do that. That seems like a waste of time and money. And then I had a boyfriend who I dated for several years. And he gave me a Christmas present that was in a little box. And I was like, oh, this is interesting. And then I opened the little box and inside was basically a jewelry box, a small jewelry box. It looked like the size of a ring box. And I was like, oh no, we would have talked about this if he was going to play this card because the answer would have been very unclear. And then it turns out that they were earrings. They were diamond earrings. It was not a ring, which is what I was concerned it was in the moment that he gave me a gift. And I'm like, I'm literally opening them and looking at them and going, oh my gosh, this is a beautiful gift. Diamond earrings at the time, very expensive gift.
Yeah.
But I'm also thinking, I don't have pierced ears. And we have been dating for 4 years. There's a lot going on in that. So by the end of that conversation that followed, I felt so bad that I'd made him feel bad that I got my ears pierced
Oh,
so I could wear them. I no longer have pierced ears, nor those earrings, nor that person.
well, you got to finish the story. What happened to the earrings? Why did you let the holes
To be
close
fair,
up?
I think the earrings are somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
I think I probably kept the earrings, but I did let my ears go back to normal.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. Just over time, I was like, I just don't wear earrings. I don't wear jewelry. It is very unusual for me to wear jewelry. I don't like it. I don't know, it was weird. It was just like, but my skin is very sensitive person.
I don't like to wear rings. I have a couple, but I never wear them. But I've had pierced earrings since I was 14 or 15. We were stationed in Japan. My mother took me to the dispensary where they numbed my earlobes and then put this little plastic thing through the ear to make the hole. Because the idea for me, I don't remember any of the thing around it, but I know there was this whole thing about you get a potato and you numb it with some ice and all this. And I'm like, no, because I, to this day, hate anything needle related. And I'm still amazed that I allowed myself to be jabbed to get. But yeah, I don't remember exactly how old I was, but I was 14, 15. And as I think about it, I'm thinking that's kind of unlike my mother. To have been okay with me doing that, getting my ears pierced.
It was kind of a thing.
I know, but
it was kind of a thing. Like more so than it is now.
Mm-hmm.
Although, again, Dashiell just went and got his ears pierced, and with his girlfriend. So that's kind of a thing. It was really sweet.
Did you get both?
He got both.
Ah, okay.
Yeah. And I was like, not sure how I was going to feel about it, but I'm like, okay. He can pull off a lot of things, and he can definitely pull it off. So, but yeah, and like I have any say, he's 18. But I think he likes that I like them, and I do.
Well, good.
But it is so weird. Earrings are weird to me. Well, all jewelry is somewhat weird, and it's interesting that we have had jewelry for forever, right? As long as there have been humans. Mm-hmm. There has been jewelry. Now, part of that is it's the thing that survives, right? It can survive over thousands of years if it's hard and metal and diamonds. But I think about the stuff that ends up in museums.
Oh yeah,
And when we were at the British Museum, they had their sort of money exhibit going on, and that was pretty amazing. But kind of going through the rest of the exhibits, it's so much of it is jewelry and crowns and you're like, wow, people really spent a lot of time with that.
Yeah, that the shiny adornment has clearly been a part of human history for a very, very, very long time. Obviously, mostly for the wealthy. Mm-hmm.
To show off your wealth?
Right, exactly. And over time has become more, is egalitarian the right word? I mean, more people are able to afford to adorn themselves in whatever manner they choose with gold and all sorts of other precious metals and gems. But I guess humans to some degree or another have always wanted to adorn themselves with pretty things.
A little peacock in us.
Yeah. Well, you look at the birds and you go, well, they look kind of fun with their feathers. How come I can't have that?
Put some feathers on. And,
that's right.
Well, and then you're like, okay, and then that's the stuff, the sort of more metal and stone and gem is the stuff that lasts, right? The feathers, if they didn't get fossilized, were gone.
Right.
The other adornments aren't as prominent, but may have been at the time. Anyway, that was sort of something I was thinking about when we were talking about the earrings. Complete off-campus thought. Because we're at our last fact. This is number 50.
Oh, okay.
You'll see that there are 3 there because I didn't know which one I wanted to use as the last fact.
Okay.
So I did 3.
Okay.
The Rose character once claimed to have given 50 young men and one very confused PE teacher mono at a Founders Day fair by kissing them, right? Isn't that the thing? I think the kissing booth.
Yeah.
Which I just thought was a very Rose kind of thing. But Rose also had 2 teddy bears that she named, Fernando and Mr. Longfellow. And those are from episodes in season 1 and season 3, Blind Ambitions and Old Friends. I just thought that was weird. And also in the flashback of how they met, she has a cat that she gives away in a store to a little boy. So those are Rose facts.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
Anyway, so we did 50. 50
Woohoo!
fun, fast facts. about the Golden Girls.
We hope you enjoyed them as much as we have enjoyed looking back at all of those. That was a lot of fun.
It was super fun. All right. As we start down our path with everybody that we're about to talk to, and I was going to see if you had any favorite episodes of season 1.
Well, first of all, I think the pilot is a really great episode. You get all 4 of our lead characters coming out basically fully formed. You have the little bit of information that you need to understand why they're all there. And the story itself was also, I thought, terrific. So it's a terrific pilot.
And it totally holds up.
Yeah.
It totally holds up. Yeah. The Engagement, season 1, episode 1. I also like season 1, episode 8, The Break-In, which is that they come back and there's been a break-in at the house. And so they all are responding to that and getting scared. Rose in particular gets the most scared. They talk a little bit about guns because Rose wants to get a gun and goes and gets a gun. But apparently also in the middle, they also go and get a dog, but they don't talk about that. They're having a whole scene. This totally threw me. They have this whole scene, and then they start walking to the kitchen, and a dog starts barking off camera. And it turns out that they somehow got a dog to protect them and kept it in the kitchen, and it hasn't been part of the scene until they just start walking towards the kitchen. And the dog is too scary, and they're all afraid of the dog. And then they have to send the dog back to the pound, which made me sad. But also, it's got this weird breakout scene. They never leave the sitcom world very much. Mm-hmm. It's all sets. It's mostly the house.
Right.
But then they'll have other sets and stuff. But they have this scene where Rose is chased in a parking lot that's shot handheld in a parking lot. And it just was so out of character of the show that it just stood out to me.
Yeah, I don't remember that one specifically, but yeah, that I guess it's probably part of the show kind of finding itself and what works and what doesn't for them, which often happens in the first season. One of the ones that I really liked was also in season 1 and written by upcoming guest Stan Zimmerman, Adult Education, because of the sexual harassment theme there. And it's Blanche that's taking an adult education class, and the teacher is basically saying, well, if you sleep with me, without coming in. Actually, I think at one point he really does kind of come out and say it. Then I'll give you the grade you need. And I think on one level it was Blanche, and I was like, well, maybe Blanche would do it. But she does not.
And she tells him, it was a lovely, one of those tell-off moments that you really want to cheer. Mm-hmm. And I also like that episode. And then I'm a fan of the I think it's the last episode of season 1, The Way We Met. Mm-hmm. It's a flashback that tells the story of how the 4 women came together. What I love about it is it feels like, of course, that's the story. By that point in the show has successfully created the history of these women together in such a way that it is delightful to watch them come together. It definitely stood out for me.
Yeah, it was done very well in terms of showing you where they started and making sense as to where they are now in the story as we know it. So, yeah, that was really well done.
Okay, so listeners, tell us what your favorite episodes of season 1 are. You can start sending us the episodes you think we should give to the 90s TV babies, because that's going to be coming up a little down the line, because we have a lot of awesome people to talk to. I can't wait. And so it's time for Audioography.
Sounds like a plan. So for today's Audioography, you can watch Golden Girls streaming online. It's currently on Hulu, Disney Plus, or Philo, and it's available for sale on YouTube, Apple, and more. And there are also some various channels, cable and otherwise, that show it regularly. But if you want to look for a particular episode, your best bet is one of the streaming. Or, as I always like to say, check your local library to see if they have the DVDs, because that way, if there's a specific episode that you wanted to go and rewatch or that you haven't watched before, that's a great way to try to find it.
And the DVDs are always going to be the best quality, sound and picture.
Yep.
I recommend the book, Golden Girls Forever, an unauthorized look behind the lanai by Jim Colucci. It's great.
Well, fantastic. And if you want to check out Maude, which we've mentioned, which Bea Arthur and Rue McClanahan starred in before they worked together again on The Golden Girls, you can find it currently free on Tubi and Pluto TV. Links will be in our description.
And I just want to give a little moment for someone we lost in the podcast community. On September 8th, a champion of indie podcast and an early adventurer in the space, Todd Cochran, passed away suddenly. He started podcasting in 2004. Before that, he ran a web blog about tech. He was the founder of the Podcast Awards, the first award show that we submitted to and won. And he wrote arguably the first book on podcasting because it came out in 2005. It was called Podcasting Do-It-Yourself Guide. There are several obituaries and articles out there about him, so we're linking some of them in our description. He was really great and welcoming to us. He was, I think, one of the first people who recognized us. In our first time when we went to Podcast Movement Evolutions, we were at a booth and he was like, "Are you guys the 80s TV ladies?" And we're like, "What?" And he was so welcoming to us, and I just want to give him a shout out.
Yeah, he will absolutely be missed.
Okay. If you want to help us make more episodes, please go to patreon.com/80s TV ladies.
You can also support the show by hitting that follow, like, subscribe, and rating wherever you listen, or tell your 80s loving friends.
You know, there's a lot going on out there. If you want to get involved in your community, I highly recommend indivisible.org. There are groups all over the country. Likely there's one near you. Please take a look.
And don't forget, your voice matters. It may not seem like it sometimes, but it absolutely does. You can call your representative and tell them what you think about what is happening. You can check out 5calls.org. They make it easy and fast to call your representatives, even if you're not sure who they are. On our next episode, it's going to be such a delight.
I can't wait.
When we covered the facts of life last season, we got to talk with the lovely Gloria Loring. That was so fun that we decided talking to the women behind some of our favorite theme songs is the way to go.
So in this next episode, we will be talking to none other than Cindy Fee, the voice of the Golden Girls. Yes, she's the singer behind the theme song, Thank You for Being a Friend.
Travel down the road and back again.
Your heart is true.
You're a pal and a confidant.
And
If you threw a party, invited everyone you knew, you would see the biggest gift would be from me, and a card attached would say,
Thank you for being a friend.
Thank you for being a friend.
I want to thank you.
Thank you for being a friend.
As always,
Thank
we hope
you.
80s TV Ladies brings you joy and laughter and lots of fabulous new and old shows to watch, all of which will lead us forward toward being amazing ladies of the 21st century.
I want to thank you.
Thank you for being a friend.